So this drug is like 1,000 times less aromatizable, right? 1,000.
But this was all in preclinical trials.
This is now it's going to be abused. Now here's what the off the disclaimer, right, guys? Don't do this. This is not utilization. This is just hypothetical stuff that I know the underground bro science guys are going to do. But if you're a guy and you want the androgenic testosterone stimulation, but you don't want any estrogen side effect, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be like testosterone, right, Omar, with Creme or with Masteron. Come on, it's just, I could see it coming. It's the same thing of using testosterone plus Masteron or Primobolan as an anti-estrogen. It's not really anti-estrogenic, but it's not converting to estrogen, it's not aromatizing, and you're getting much more of a compound that's anabolic and androgenic.
I'm Dr. Thomas O'Connor, a lifelong powerlifter, board-certified physician, and published academic author. I've taken care of thousands of men on testosterone and steroids, and now I use my media appearances in this YouTube channel to provide education and harm reduction. Subscribe now so I can help you stay strong and healthy.
Heavy testosterone. Is this a new steroid coming into be? AVA-291. This is absolutely unbelievable. And I want to bring this to you guys today, but this is super important to understand. This is probably going to hit the market in the next couple of years, but I want it to be understood that you've got to be careful with this agent. Here to break this down for us is my Director of Education and Strategy for the Testosteronology Society, Omar Hajmousa, Pharm-D. Go for it, Omar.
Before we go any further, I want to be clear about a few things. This is an educational discussion, not a treatment recommendation or an endorsement of any investigational drug. AVA-291 is still in development and claims about reduced aromatization based on preclinical data. Human metabolism and safety data are not yet available. While observational studies suggest testosterone therapy in women does not increase breast cancer risk, these data are not randomized and should be interpreted cautiously. Our goal today is to discuss the science and the regulatory landscape, not to promote off-label or investigational use. So I just wanted to start with talking about a regulatory gap that we have. Despite decades of research and decades of data, there is currently no FDA-approved testosterone formulation that exists for women in the United States. All the research that has been done in the decades of research is pointing towards its use for hypoactive sexual desire disorder, or HSDD, in postmenopausal women. Currently, insufficient evidence of testosterone replacement therapy in women with other indications such as mood, cognition, and musculoskeletal effects. A transdermal patch was approved in Europe to treat HSDD in surgically menopausal women, but it was removed when it did not receive approval in naturally menopausal women. Despite evidence of efficacy in both populations. In Australia, a 1% cream was approved for postmenopausal women with HSDD. So other countries do have approved testosterone formulations specifically for women. Estimated there has been 2 million prescriptions for testosterone written every year for women, and that's as of an article in August of 2024. Current practice relies on off-label male formulations, compounded preparations, or use of synthetic anabolic androgenic steroids not supported by evidence. The evidence base currently for testosterone in women is based on the indication for HSDD in postmenopausal women after formal biopsychosocial assessment. Evidence for other indications is lacking. Currently, male formulations difficult to dose appropriately for achieving premenopausal physiological ranges. Testosterone cypionate and enanthate are formulated with 100 to 200 milligrams per milliliter, which makes it very difficult to draw the amount needed. And for anybody that has low health literacy, it could accidentally result in an overdose. Think of somebody accidentally drawing half an ml instead of 0.05 mLs and 10xing the dose. Complex preparations, there's a lack of quality control, inconsistent dosing, insufficient safety data. In my opinion, compounding filled a vacuum that shouldn't have ever existed when it comes to testosterone for women because of that data that we have. Not all compounding is bad, obviously, but some of it can be, and some of it can be harmful to women. Other synthetic anabolic androgenic steroids that are used, like oxandrolone and nandrolone, off-label in some hormone clinics despite no evidence base for HSDD. Now, this is where we go into the breast cancer question in our paradigm shift, because this is what this company is marketing AVA-291 for. The historical concern has been that testosterone aromatization into estrogen might increase breast cancer risk. New observational and hypothesis-generating evidence is emerging in the realm of breast cancer. Some data from the Women's Health Initiated revealed the progestin problem, so estrogen-only therapy associated with lower breast cancer risk, while progestin increased risk. This is a paradigm shift where progestin major drivers, not estrogens. Clinical data on testosterone therapy is even more reassuring. A large claims database analysis found women on testosterone had a 52% lower risk of breast cancer compared to MAP controls. There was a 10-year prospective study published in 2024, and it showed that significant lower breast cancer incidence in women treated with testosterone versus non-testosterone. And then preclinical trials on DHT derived drugs showed that DHT's breast cancer cell proliferation by 38 to 68%, even triple negative cells. All this is to think about how all these preclinical studies and in vitro studies are showing that potentially, or testosterone aromatization is not a problem. It's not as much of a problem as we think it is. This cannot be taken as gospel yet with real clinical trials and without having the opinion of oncologists and OBGYNs. This is where deuterated testosterone AVA-291 from AVIVA Bio comes in. So the concept of deuteration has been proven and used in a drug called deutetrabenzene or aceto. The thought is replacing hydrogen with deuterium, which is also called heavy hydrogen, alters metabolic pathways due to that bond, the carbon-deuterium bond being stronger than the carbon-hydrogen bond, without altering how the drug binds to proteins and how it works. So we're looking at potentially improved pharmacokinetics like half-life and stability. Doesn't really matter for testosterone because the half-life is driven by the ester, not by the molecule itself. But this all comes into play when we think about how testosterone versus deuterated testosterone functions with the aromatase enzyme. In preclinical studies, the AVA-291 showed high resistance to aromatization while having equal potency and efficacy at the androgen receptor. However, no efficacy or safety conclusions can be drawn from preclinical aromatization data. All of that has to go through clinical trials. Theoretical advantages we're looking at is reduced aromatization, but the big one that, in my opinion, is regulatory and purpose-designed formulation. Creating a medication specifically for women, since there are no testosterone or androgens approved for women currently in the United States. All prescribing has been off-label. And the biggest irony in this is, given that data is starting to point towards TRT already appearing protective and estrogen only HRT doesn't increase breast cancer risk, prevent aromatization, maybe solving a problem that doesn't even exist clinically.
Wow, unbelievable. So thank you so much, Omar, for that deep dive in the pharmacological sense. Now, so testosterone replacement for women has been off-label. Hopefully that will change because women need testosterone and they should have access to it. But it's crazy that they have to microdose. We need to have a much tighter and a regulated schedule for women to feel comfortable with this, right? So, because it's kind of like the insulin, right? Like the 40 unit, right, for the vets versus, as you know, versus the 100 unit, right? So that concentration, when you're dosing testosterone at 200 milligrams per milliliter, it's just a nightmare. Like you said, you have to use these baby syringes and they can overdose. So that's the concept, right? Between the veterinary insulin versus the human insulin, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my biggest concern comes when we have patients that might not be not have as much health literacy as other patients that maybe speak different languages. We all come in all different shapes and sizes, all different levels of health literacy. So the example I put out doing 0.5 mLs versus 0.05, the prescribed 0.05, for example, is a huge difference, which can lead to more side effects in these women from using testosterone, especially if they're not being followed as tightly. And let's say they've been doing that dose for 3 months or 4 months. You can imagine what can happen.
And so many women anecdotally have complained that it's just they don't want that concentration so concentrated. It should be easier for efficacy to use, so a less concentrated form, which it is out there. I mean, you can get that out in compounding land. Okay, so the concept that testosterone injections or testosterone, I don't care if it's oral, pellets, or what have you, testosterone aromatizes. And the first thing that I thought was, so this drug is like 1,000 times less aromatizable, right? 1,000. It doesn't aromatize, right? Negligibly.
It is highly resistant, but this was all in preclinical trials, so we don't know how it actually behaves in real women receiving this real product.
But when you look at it, this is what, and again, guys, you can Google this and fact check. You'll see. I think we're one of the first guys in the real fitness world to be launching this. But this discussion, and again, can you buy it somewhere like the retatrutide stuff? It's not a medicine yet, but you can get it right now all over the internet. Oh boy! So talk about putting the cart before the horse. So the concept is, because the bond between deuterium is so tight versus a hydrogen, that carbon-19, right? Is it C19? So is that it's not going to fit into the aromatize that enzyme, so it's not going to aromatize. Now, and they say in the literature 1,000 times less. So they're doing it be like, hey, so it's going to be great for women, because when women take testosterone, it aromatizes to some degree, and therefore they're at risk for breast cancer. Omar just talked. It's not true. There's some aromatization. And well, let's go into the DHT-derived steroids.
Yeah.
So dry DHT-derived steroids, go, Omar, tell us about what we're thinking.
So something that comes to mind is currently methanolone and drostanolone, so Primobolan and Masteron, they're not commercially available in the USA. No way to get them outside of an underground lab. No, oxandrolone exists, and sometimes it's used in women, which is Anavar, but currently no DHT-based therapy has been studied or approved for HSDD in women. Extensive evidence base supports testosterone, not synthetic androgens for now, and that's what we have so far on DHTs in women.
But DHT, so let's take a deep dive. Let's get away from the utility for women, which sooner or later we have to just make this testosterone, on record, prescribed for women. It's just like crazy, elephant in the room stuff. All right, so do we need this? Now it's going to be abuse. Now here's what this is off the disclaimer, right, guys? Don't do this. This is not utilization. This is just hypothetical stuff that I know the underground bro science guys are going to do. Hey, this is a super dry testosterone, deuterated testosterone, heavy testosterone. So who's going to use it? Well, if you're a guy, you're on testosterone and you get estrogenic symptoms from the brain, the moodiness, and then the gynecomastia, the acne and all this kind of stuff. In theory, right? It's not just estrogen with acne, it's DHT, and it's just genetic and all this. So, but if you're a guy and you want the androgenic testosterone stimulation, but you don't want any estrogen side effect, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be like a DHT. It's going to be like testosterone, right, Omar, with Primo or with Masteron. Come on, it's just, I could see it coming. So you could take a little bit of testosterone to get your testosterone and your estrogen for the brain in to the man per man fingerprint level, to I don't know what it's going to be, 100 milligrams, 50 milligrams. So I like a little bit of estrogen conversion, and then I'm going to just take this deuterated heavy testosterone to crank up for the muscle building stuff. It's the same thing of using testosterone plus masteron or primobolan as an anti-estrogen. It's not really anti-estrogenic, but it's not converting to estrogen, it's not aromatizing, and you're getting much more of a compound that's anabolic and androgenic. That's it, Omar, right? That's the potential. Expand on that.
Another application could be for those men that are abusing androgens, could be using it alone because it resists aromatization, and if it does resist aromatization and does not block aromatization, that means that it can be used on its own without a testosterone base, and that's all you could do, or could be used with a testosterone base with upping the dose of testosterone.
Wow. But then again, we're back to testosterone with Primo or testosterone with Masteron, or maybe, hey, it's better than using a DHT-derived steroid that's dry, and forget the aromatization, forget the blood, but it's going to be less, it's not a DHT-derived, it's testosterone, so it's less going to be better for hair or for the prostate. And that's it, guys. We're done. I mean, right, Omar?
Yeah. For men, yeah. For women, just bottom line, AVA-291 can address a genuine regulatory gap, providing a path to an improved quality controlled formulation. The value proposition here is not having a new androgen, it's having a standard dosing control and FDA oversight of a formulation that's specifically meant for women. So the rationale could be more about regulatory approval and pharmacokinetic optimization than breast cancer prevention. The key takeaway from this video is deuterated testosterone represents an innovative approach to solving a decades-old regulatory problem. The problem that we have is the lack of an FDA-approved testosterone formulation in women. The theoretical advantage of reduced aromatization is scientifically interesting, but the clinical reality is that conventional testosterone could potentially be already safe and effective. The value of this drug may lie in providing women with a regulated, evidence-based treatment option rather than relying on off-label male formulation or less regulated compound preparations. Hope everything out there is regulated.
Right. Outstanding presentation, Omar. Thank you so much. And guys, give us feedback, so I think this is pretty new, but it's going to be running. If this thing gets through the clinical trials and becomes a true medication, even near a medication in the next year or two, it's going to probably explode, and it's going to be in the underground pharmacies, like retatrutide, and it's going to just be careful. Be careful. I think we have enough other agents, including DHT-derived agents, that have a very good history of clinical efficacy and safety. Be careful, ABCDs. But give us a lot of comments, guys. We put a lot into this together. And again, if you're healthcare providers and you like the level that we're playing on from an ethical and from an intellectual standpoint, please look into the Testosteronology Society and join us. Thank you so much.